If, then, and beyond, mastering the art of conditional clauses. Hello everyone, my name is Anna and welcome to my explanation of conditional clauses in business English. Today I will be discussing how to use conditional clauses to express hypothetical situations and their outcomes. Let's get it started. Conditional clauses, what are they? Conditional clauses are used to express something that could happen and the result that would follow if it did. They are formed by using if or unless, followed by a clause expressing the hypothetical situation, and then a clause expressing the result. There are several types of conditional clauses in English, each with its own specific structure and usage. Conditional clauses express a condition that must be met for the main cause to happen. Conditional clauses consist of two parts, the if clause and the main clause. There are four main types of conditional clauses: zero conditional, first conditional, second conditional, third conditional, and there are even more which are not very typical, but there is also a type called mixed conditional clauses. Zero conditional clause is used for general truth and specific facts. It uses present simple in both of the if clause and main clause. I remind you, present simple is when we add an ending s or es to our verb: goes, walks, talks, and so on. Some examples: if you heat water to 100 degrees, it boils. Heat, boils. Both verbs are in present simple. If you eat too much, I feel sick. Eat and feel. Unless you finish your work, you can't go home. Finish, can't go. Everything is in present. If you press the button, the light turns on. Press, turn on. Present simple. The problems start when we move to first conditional clause. First conditional clause is used for possible future events. It uses present simple in the if clause and future simple in the main clause. Future simple is particle will plus the verb. Examples: if it rains, I will stay indoors. Rains, will stay. As long as it doesn't rain, we will have a picnic. Doesn't, will, have. If I finish work early, I will go to the cinema. Finish, will go. If it doesn't rain, we will have a picnic in the park. Doesn't rain, will have. One thing to keep in mind, you can never swap those parts. For example, you cannot say, if it will rain, I stay indoors. So if you have if, then you never ever use will in that sentence. And another example: if you study hard, you will pass the exam. If you will study hard, you pass the exam is a no-go in English. Second conditional clause is used for hypothetical or imaginary situations in the present or future. It uses the past simple in the if clause and the present conditional would plus verb in the main clause. Short reminder: what past simple is when you use a verb and you add an ending ed to it, or take the verb from the second column if it's an irregular verb. Let's take a look at some examples. If I had €1,000,000, I would buy a house and would travel a lot. So we have verb had and we have a verb buy. So we have had in the if clause, past simple, and we have would plus a verb without any particle to in the main clause. If I had more money, I would buy a new car. Similar example, had and would buy. If I were you, I would tell her the truth. Now you see in here, we have a singular subject, I. So logically, you probably learned that you should use the verb in a singular form. If I was happy, whatever. Well, here there is not much logic applied. You just have to remember that if you have I in conditional clause in if sentences, you have to go for verb if you were to using the verb to be. If I won the lottery, I would travel around the world. Won and would travel. Third conditional is used for hypothetical and imaginary situations in the past. The key word here is in the past. It uses the past perfect in the clause and past conditional in the main clause. Past perfect, just a short reminder, is verb had plus the verb with an ending ed if it's a regular verb, or a verb from the third column if it's irregular verb. Let's take a look at some examples. If I had studied harder, I would have passed the exam. So had studied is our past perfect, and would have passed is our past conditional that consists of the would have part in here and past participle, a verb with an ed ending. If we had left earlier, we wouldn't have missed the train. If she had known, she would have come to the party. Remember, three forms of the verb to come is come, came, come. So you're using the third form. Let's get moving. Mixed conditionals. Well, now it's getting definitely confusing for you. Other types of conditional clauses include mixed conditional clauses. So you basically mix tenses between the if clause and the main clause. Usually you take the second conditional clause and the third conditional clause and you mix them up. So you have in the second conditional clause you have an if plus past simple, and in the main clause you have would plus a verb. In a third conditional, you have if plus past perfect, and you have would plus past participle. So what you do in mixed conditional, you mixed these parts. So you take the if clause from the second conditional and you have would plus participle in the main clause. And the same here, you take would plus if plus past perfect and for the if clause and go for would and verb in the main clause. Let's take a look at the examples. You don't see much, but you'll see that in a second. If I had studied harder in school, I would be a more successful business person today. So, if I had studied harder in school is talking about past unreal situation. You cannot change anything about that. The time has gone. I would be a more successful business person today relates to a present unreal situation. That's why you have this part, would be. Another example, if I hadn't moved to New York, I wouldn't have met my husband. If I hadn't moved to New York is talking about a past unreal situation, and I wouldn't have met my husband is talking about a past situation with a different outcome. Let's take a look at the comma rule. in conditional clauses. The comma rule for conditionals is that if conditional clause comes before the main clause, you should put a comma between the two clauses. If the main clause comes first, you do not need to use any comma. For example, if it rains, the picnic will be cancelled. If it rains, comma, the picnic will be cancelled. The picnic will be cancelled. Here, there is no comma. If it rains. So what is my conclusion? In conclusion, I can tell you that understanding conditional clauses is essential for effective communication, especially in business English. They allow us to express hypothetical situations and their outcomes, and they can be used in a variety of contexts to convey your ideas, to convey your partner in that your information, your business plan is the best. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope that this presentation has helped you a little bit in understanding the conditional clause.